Tonight's artist, Time with Miles Davis, alongside Ron Carter and Tony Williams, proved to be the crucial element in his development. In the magazine that we follow, one of the quotes that I like the most is, "The title track alone is worth the price of the album." Tonight we are talking about none other than Herbie Hancock. The album is Maiden Voyage. How you guys doing?
Good.
Doing all
Good to
right.
see you, man. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's good to see your faces too.
I know yesterday was a special day. Just tell you happy Father's Day, and we had a great day. I know we're taping this a week later, but be that as it may.
Right. Absolutely. It was a great day. It sure was. So, all right. Well, let's do this. Let's go ahead and get started with some clips of tonight's album. We're going to do the same kind of style that we've been doing anyways, is we'll do the clips first and we'll get into the slideshow and our discussion, and then we'll talk about our weekend music. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. We are the Unconnoisseurs. My name's Matt. You got Drew, and Dad is here as well. So, Dad, I'm going to start with your clip, if that's all right.
I want to hear the Dolphin Dance starting at roughly 5:45.
5:45.
For 45 seconds to a minute, maybe.
Okay. All right. Here we go. Dolphin Dance, 5:45. Like you, Drew, I don't want to turn it off.
No, not at all.
Oh,
Isn't that sweet?
man, what a great clip.
Got a beautiful
Awesome clip.
Yeah, that's Herbie, I would say, at his greatest, at his best. Especially the slow rhythm, and it just comes out to me so beautifully. He's not rushed. He's not in a hurry. So he's just playing this tune, and he knows he's got background instruments behind him, and so let's just go. Let's just flow. I can see that sitting at the piano and just looking like he's not intense. He's just relaxed and playing.
Yeah, and you know, I love the way that he uses space in his solos. He doesn't have to play a gajillion notes per measure. He lets everything breathe. He just the use of his space and his tones, it's almost relaxing. I mean, it is relaxing. All right, Dad, that was an amazing clip. Thank you so much. Drew, how about you? What did you want to hear?
I've been tossed back and forth about what I wanted to hear. And I think that what I would really like to hear is the Eye of the Hurricane, starting at about 3:04. And mine is the same reason Dad was. I wanted to highlight Herbie's playing on this.
Okay, here we go. The Eye of the Hurricane starting at 3:04. I got to cut it off there, but I don't want to because
I know.
he's
I know.
he's so in the groove.
He
Tell
is
us-
just
tell
tearing
us-
it up there.
Tell me why you picked that clip, though.
Well, it's interesting because as many times this week as I've listened to this album, just in general, I want to hear Ron Carter play. I want to hear Freddie play. And there's so many great places where all these guys play, but it's a Herbie Hancock album. And I just want to hear the bop style when he cuts loose. That's what I really wanted. He just flows into the epitome of what I think about jazz piano.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't give you the space that I think that I know him for. He just tears it up, and those ivories are getting tickled, and I just loved it. That was, man, it moved me.
Yeah, I agree. Dad, what do you think?
It's so interesting that it sounds like he's playing, like it'd be easy to learn how to play the piano based on what you hear. Like,
Yeah,
because he's so proficient at it, and it just comes out of him from all the years of experience, but he makes it sound simple.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I struggled this week to pick a clip. I don't know why, because I love the whole album. I told Dad yesterday that I was struggling to find something that I wanted to highlight. I didn't want to turn it into the Freddie Hubbard episode because, you know, I could talk about Freddie's work until I'm blue in the face, especially on this album. I will just highlight, though, in the magazine, again, we're using the JazzWise magazine's top 100 albums that shook the world. And this is number 27 on the countdown. We are counting our way back from 100, so we are on number 27. But in the magazine, Hubbard says, equally memorable solo to Stolen Moments from the Blues and the Abstract Truth, number 66 that we covered. So
yeah,
Freddie loves his solo on Maiden Voyage just about as much as he did on Stolen Moments. Now, for me, you know, that Stolen Moment solo is a gut-wrenching, just amazing piece of work from Freddie. But man, I loved everything Freddie did on this album. So I picked a different clip. I don't want to talk about Freddie too much, but I picked Survival of the Fittest, and this is going to highlight Herbie's work as well. So I'm going to start right around 7. I'm going to give myself about 45 seconds of Survival of the Fittest. Here we go. Okay. So there's no doubt about it that this album is a concept album. And it says right on the wiki page that he wanted to do a concept album to make you think of the ocean. Now, when I was listening to this clip earlier today and decided to play it, I was coming down off of mowing the grass, and I had a lot of energy, and I was listening to this clip, and it made me think of a school of fish running away through the kelp and the seaweed. Just the way that he was dancing on the keys, I was just thinking maybe they're running from a shark or a bigger predator. So yeah, it just made me think of a school of fish swimming around that get that whole ocean vibe.
yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. After you say that, I could hear it. I could pick that up. It's a good visual.
Oh, hey, let's move on to the slideshow and we'll get some talking points going here.
Yep.
First slide, just like we say it every week, whatever you do it to jazz. And you'll hear coming up in just a few minutes that's pretty much what we do all week long, is just listen to jazz music. It's the music that we've fallen in love with and we love to talk about. So tonight, again, we're talking about Herbie Hancock, the album Maiden Voyage from 1965. I did put the album cover on this front slide here. I love the artwork, you know, the blurry picture of the boat, the lime green color. I just, you know, it's interesting artwork. It's fun to look at. It's very recognizable to me. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I like it. I like it. I can relate to it. He's in a little sailboat going across the shoreline, basically.
Yep.
Yeah. Maybe it's the maiden voyage of that boat.
Right. Exactly. Exactly.
All right. All right. Let's move on to the next slide. I got jazz lingo for the day. The term that I picked is wax a disc. And that is simply the musician's term for going to cut a record. They're going to wax a disc. So Herbie waxed a whole lot of discs and
he did.
He's still continuing to do so. So, and then I did put a picture of Herbie on there. I found a really cool picture yesterday, and so I just dropped it in the slideshow. We haven't done pictures in quite a while on the slideshow, but I just found it interesting, so I wanted to put it in there. Just give you something to look at besides my face. All right, we'll move on to the where you can get it slide. Of course, all the major streaming platforms you can get it. I did check Discogs, but I'd prefer that you buy it local. Go to your local record store, CD shop, and if you're going to purchase this album, go ahead and head out to your local record store. I did put a quote on here from Herbie. This one hit me all. It shook me all for the last couple of days. Life is not about finding our limitations. It's about finding our infinity.
Wow.
That sounds like a Wayne Shorter quote to me.
You know, it does. You're right. Him and Wayne are on. They're just on a deeper plane. They're on a different level, a deeper plane than. So, but yeah, that does sound like something Wayne would say. All right, let's move on to the timeline slide. We've talked about Herbie before, so I just kind of tried to use different facts this time on the timeline. But Herbie was born in 1940, and then in 1962, Taken Off was his first album released. Of course, 1965 is the album that we're talking about tonight, Maiden Voyage. He released another amazing album in 2005 called Possibilities. And then in 2010, the Imagine Project. He released the Imagine Project. Now, if you guys have not checked out the Imagine Project or Possibilities, man, give those albums a listen to for sure. All right, we're going to move on to the information slide for Herbie. Some of the influences that I found, and the first one is kind of general, but he was classically trained. And it does say right on his wiki page that he couldn't find a teacher to teach him jazz. So he went the classical method to learn piano, learning classical music. The other influences that I found is he had George Shearing records, Errol Gardner records, Bill Evans, and Oscar Peterson records that he would listen to on repeat and try and mimic or use those styles in his playing. So, Drew, what about you? Did you find any other influences or want to talk about any other ones?
I didn't find anything more than what we found on web, his website, of course, and wiki. So, no, I think that hit it pretty well.
I did find the name Chris Anderson as someone who influenced him.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't write any other information down where that happened, how that happened. Maybe when he was just a youngster and this man recognized him as a child prodigy. Maybe that's what it was.
I think what it was he heard Mr. Anderson play and he begged him to take him on as a student because he loved his chord structure. Right? Do you remember? Does that sound familiar?
Yeah, I remember that now.
Yeah. Herbie heard him play and wanted him to be his teacher.
Yeah.
Awesome. The discography. Now, my slide is a little bit wrong. I forgot to change the compilations number, but the other two numbers are correct. 41 studio CDs. He's got actually a lot more compilation records than 3, and I'm sorry that the slide is wrong, but we'll correct that later. And then the filmography, he's got 11 films that he has been in as an actor, as himself, or done some acting that way as well. So he's got a lot of work out there to listen to. You know, the 41 studio albums alone would keep you busy for a couple of months if you listen to every one of them. But the compilation albums that he's on is just simply, I mean, it's mind-bending. So what he's done. The genre that I've got listed, jazz, post-bop, modal jazz, jazz fusion, jazz funk, and electro. Now, Drew, you could probably lump him into a couple of other categories as well. You think?
Yeah, you could lump him into some others, but I think the jazz, the post bop, modal covers it, but the fusion, he does so many other. I mean, it's R&B, it's pop, it's just straight rock and roll, and I think the electro, rocket is
Yeah.
forever in my mind, and that's electro, but there's so much more to it.
Yeah.
There's a lot of depth to Herbie.
Oh, for sure. Okay, here we go. A few facts about Herbie. And I tried not to use the same facts as we used last time that we talked about him. So he has won 14 Grammy Awards. He was considered a child prodigy. So, again, we talked about him wanting Mr. Anderson to teach him. And like you said, I think, Anderson said, you're probably pretty good already. So child prodigy. He did not have a jazz teacher, was one of the facts that I've got listed on the slide. And he was just 24 when Maiden Voyage came out. So,
Yeah, I mean, do tell. Seriously,
yeah, right.
Your fifth album, and you're 24,
Yeah, and it just happens to be Maiden Voyage, something
right?
that's going to shake the world.
Pushing the boundaries at 24 years of age, and still pushing them today.
Yeah, for sure. All right, let's talk a little bit about Maiden Voyage. That it was his fifth album released, and he did want to create the oceanic atmosphere, like I talked about earlier. In 1999, the Grammy Hall of Fame award was awarded to Maiden Voyage, so he did win the Grammy Hall of Fame for Maiden Voyage. Little One, the song Little One, which, Drew, you wanted to highlight, but we didn't play Little One, a clip from Little One.
Yep.
That was also recorded by Miles and his group in the same year. So,
Yes.
and I did listen to both versions, and Herbie's is way better in my opinion.
Well, it's interesting. I think it's a good time to mention this. This was Miles's crew.
Yes.
I mean, we're talking about Tony Williams. We're talking about George Coleman, who shortly after this was replaced by Wayne Shorter. But you've got all of the banging names on here from Freddie Hubbard. Now, Freddie wasn't in that, Miles, but you've got Hancock Coleman, George Coleman, on tenor sax. You got Ron Carter on bass, Tony Williams on drums. So this was the Miles Davis group, and it makes perfect sense that they had already recorded this particular song. Herbie did the same thing that Wayne did for Miles. Here's some things I got. Can we play them?
Right.
And some of Miles' greatest records were thanks to Wayne Shorter or Gil Evans. So it's what I would say is a true homage to this particular song. And I'll get into more about it, but Watermelon Man and Chameleon. Think about how many other people have recorded those particular songs. So
yeah, I'm gonna hit that fact here in just a minute.
My bad. Keep on moving then.
No, that's all right. That's okay. About Maiden Voyage. So actually, Penguin's Guide to Jazz does recommend that this Maiden Voyage be in your core collection. And Herbie says himself that that Maiden Voyage, the song Maiden Voyage off this album, was one of his very favorite compositions.
Yeah.
6 Degrees this week was fairly easy because like you said just a minute ago, Herbie and Miles, they played together, so there's no other degree needed for 6 Degrees.
Nope.
Unless you found another degree.
Nothing is close.
I also looked up the Maiden Voyage, and it was done by a number of other artists. I didn't count them because there were so many who recorded this throughout the years. It's very impressive.
Over 30. Maiden Voyage has been covered more than 30 times. And I'll tell you a little bit about my week in music, or who I rabbit holed down this week based on the information that I found. So that'll be coming up. So, okay. All right. Let's, the final slide for me in the slideshow today in jazz history. Today is June 25th. And I just want to say that, when this episode drops, I'm 5 days away from my 35-year wedding anniversary. So happy anniversary, Kendra, coming up in 5 days.
Happy anniversary.
Yeah. Hallelujah.
Yeah, right?
Bless your heart, brother.
Today in jazz history, composer Bill Russo was born in 1928. Joe Chambers was born in 1942. And then Bill Evans Trio records at the Village Vanguard in 1961. One final quote from me on the slideshow, and then we'll continue our discussion about Maiden Voyage. This one hit me too. Music isn't about music; it's about life. Quote from Herbie Hancock.
Yep. I just had a conversation. I'll tell you about him in a little bit, but I just had a conversation at dinner with a professional musician about this very statement. I don't know how. I haven't seen your slide until a few minutes ago, but that is such the point. It's not about music. It's about life.
Mm-hmm.
It's about the life giving. It's about the opportunities in life. So what a great quote, Matt. What a great quote.
Oh, that's Herbie's quote. I just picked
Well, good find.
Dad, you contemplating another one? What do you got?
I've got at least a couple, but let me read this one. Music happens to be an art form that transcends language.
Yeah.
And another, jazz is about being in the moment. I like that. We're in the moment when we're listening to Herbie and so many others.
You know, and we've said it. We've said it on the episodes a lot. Jazz is not background music. It is music to contemplate and to listen to, and to. Yes, we do other things while we listen to jazz. I have jazz on while I work, or when I mow the yard, or even in the shower, I'm listening to jazz. But and that's fine to have it on in the background. But man, when you sit and listen and get your nice headphones out and get in your comfortable chair, you got your drink or your coffee or your tea, and you got jazz on, and that's all you're focused on. Wow, it is. It's kind of, it's life changing.
Can we move on to the new artist?
Yeah, Dad, tell us what's new.
Well, speaking of being in the moment, I think our listeners, when they begin to listen to this new artist, her name is Audrey Powne, Powne. She's Australian, and her album is From the Fire. And as I listen to that, it is, you can really be in the moment with her. She's plays trumpet, and she started playing only in 2018. She's a music teacher in Melbourne, Australia, obviously. Mm-hmm. I don't remember what school she's teaching in, but I think our listeners will find this just a sweet, melodious, a steady, rhythmic flow that's very stylistic. And there's a lot of feeling. You can actually feel the music, and it's so warm and inviting that I think our listeners will really generate to it. She does R&B as well as soul, as well as jazz, and there's also a song that I listen to as well on a different album. It's called Flowers. And I would encourage our listeners to check her out after listening to From the Fire. Listen to this one track called Flowers.
Yeah.
Again, it's just so beautifully arranged, composed, and presented. So
I get Bria Schoenberg-ish from her, except Audrey is a little more Courtney Pine. She's got the funky background and the it's not all swing, but Audrey, and I did have a chance to listen to this album. Thank you for sending that out earlier. She's got vocals on here too. She is also singing on the album. So that's what reminded me of Bria Schoenberg is Bria is a trumpet player that also sings on her album. So
this album was released April of 24.
Yep. And
it's on the BBE label. BBE stands for Barely Breaking Even.
That's funny.
That is funny, isn't it?
Yeah.
But I encourage our listeners to check Audrey out. I think they'll
cool.
Maybe
I'll put a picture of that cover out there so y'all can go dig in.
Yep. Thank you.
So, thoughts on Maiden Voyage?
Go for it, man.
I'll start. I've been talking a lot already. I'll give you guys a chance to talk in a minute. I did not want to leave this album all week long. There was so much other music that I wanted to listen to, and I didn't, simply because Maiden Voyage was so amazing that you can almost find something new
Yeah.
every time you listen to it. And again, I struggled picking a clip this week. I'm glad I picked the clip that I did. I'm glad I got the visions of what I was seeing, what he was trying to get across. The whole thing, and from the clips that we played tonight, you would think, if our listeners haven't heard the album, you would think that it's piano heavy. It is not piano heavy at all. We didn't struggle to find piano clips,
Mm-mm.
but man, you add Herbie, you add Freddie and Chambers in there. Holy cow. It's just simply amazing. And the tunes, they stick in my head. They resonate in my head all day long. After I turn the album off, I'm still da 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 da. You know, they're just there resonating in my brain. And I just loved it so much. Okay.
I'm surprised you didn't mention Ron Carter.
Well, yeah. You know, well, Drew mentioned him earlier, but
Ron Carter.
George Coleman again on sax, Ron Carter on bass, and Tony Williams on drums. So
Yeah.
you got an all-star lineup, and Ron's just back there doing his thing, and he doesn't stand out a lot. He doesn't have much solo work in this album, but man, if he wasn't there, it'd be completely different.
Right. I was going to say, you may not have heard him in the solo range here, but what would have been different about this album had it been anybody else?
Yeah.
I mean, the smooth sailing, what they referred to as this experimental album, would anybody else have been able to just flow with it? I don't think anybody could have.
Can you picture Jocko playing the bass on this album?
Oh man.
Completely different album.
Right.
With him on-
Right.
Yeah. All right, Dad, tell us what
Well,
you
Yeah, and I'm going with the theme that you brought up. This concept, the flow, the rhythmic, the maiden voyage, and the sea, and it just kind of draws you into listening to more and more of it, and the style is just so good, and I can feel the breeze taking the sail and going wherever, whenever, however, a sailboat. I've never ridden driven or operated a sailboat, but you can feel it from this music. And even the Dancing with Dolphins, I mean, I can picture the dolphins coming beside the boat and just kind of up and down and flowing. I like the album, of course. It's Freddie and it's Herbie. Okay. So there you go.
Yeah. All right, Drew.
I sailed away with this album. I really did. All week long, it was funny because you would text me, maybe I need to listen to something different from Herbie, and I came across the Herbie Korea album. So to listen to Herbie Hancock and Chick Corea play together just floored me. Well, it wasn't long after last week. I've been doing a lot more walking in preparation of this week, which is why I'm in the prison cell that it looks like I'm in. And I got finished with Korea Hancock, and I thought, I need to go back to Maiden Voyage.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if I listened to it, I had to have listened to it twice a day, every day for a week.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm moved by every particular song and about the flow. You know, it is like a wave. And I kept listening for waves crashing on a beach. I kept thinking about Corpus Christi and Port Aransas and Gulf Shores, Alabama. Today is the 16th that we're recording, and on the 21st of June, I will celebrate my 17th anniversary. So Gulf Shores, Alabama, I was looking at pictures of that, and I can feel the sand. I can feel the warmth on my legs. I can feel the joy that you get from this. And then the boat, of course. I go back to Deb and Jack one day. It's a whole different ride in a big sailboat than it is a bass boat in Canada. And so all of these things flooded my emotions when I'm thinking about this album. I just loved it. And I had a hard time at picking a clip. I really wanted to hear Herbie, But the truth is, I wanted to listen to the 8-minute, 43-second song of Little One.
Mm-hmm.
When I listen to it, I want to get my blankie and a pacifier, and I just want to curl up in a nice, comfortable blanket and just feel it. That's what the album said to me all week long.
Yeah.
Drew, to correct you here just a second. Probably not Lake Michigan. It's probably Lake Erie.
Okay.
Did you study geography in Harding?
No. I studied automotive technology.
So the interesting thing that I found, and I was talking to Dad about this earlier, but on our jazz timeline on the unconnoisseur.com website, we've got a jazz timeline up there. And this album, again, came out in 65. But if you look at the timeline for the 60s, it's all the free and the avant-garde jazz that's listed on our timeline. It doesn't mean that's the only kind of music that came out.
Yep.
That kind of music was huge in the 60s, the free jazz and the avant-garde. So this album, kind of shattered all of that right away in 1965 anyways, by not being a free jazz album. I just found that interesting while I was doing my research this week, checking out the unconnoisseur.com timeline. And I'm like, wait a minute, this something, Herbie's just mixing it up. He's just doing his thing. And I love that about Herbie, that he's doing his own thing.
Well,
that's a good point.
It's interesting though, because like I hit last week in this thought process, there are so many names that we don't follow in the stream of jazz. You think about who we discussed last week, Albert Eiler, and all of the streams of where we went and who we heard then. How many names didn't we get? But jazz begins to take these streams because it's pulling in from all places. It's not just about the Southern experience or moving from the blues. You bring in the rock and roll. You bring in the Indian music. You bring in. So how many streams during the free jazz movement, we do focus on that. But how many other people were experimenting with what we think of as jazz today?
Mm-hmm.
And this was that album.
Yes, it's a great point. It's a great point. All right, Drew, would you recommend this album to a first-time listener?
Every day, all day.
Dad, what about you?
I would too.
Yeah.
I would like for new listeners to know Herbie and learn to appreciate his style, his music, and him as a person.
Yeah, for sure.
Matt?
Oh, for sure. Yeah, I would say that this might be in the top 5 albums that I would recommend to a first-time listener, because, you could go Kind of Blue, you could go Love Supreme, and those take a little while to digest and to appreciate, I believe. Maiden Voyage you could put on and appreciate it right from the start.
Yep.
There are other albums, again, that would probably make my top 10, but this album would be in my top 3. New jazz listener has to listen to it.
Yep.
Yeah. You ready to rate?
Yep. Let's do.
Okay. Dad?
Go ahead.
No, I want to hear I'm so excited to hear your score because we haven't talked about that.
Okay. So overall, based on my criteria, I can give this a solid 9.
Oh.
Okay. And
banging.
There's so much good in this, but it didn't quite move me like some others have moved me. Though I felt it and I could experience and express it overall. Definitely creative. Wow, and the historical setting of the history, 1965.
Mm-hmm.
That got a very high score. So overall, a 9.
Awesome.
Yep.
Drew, what about you?
1960 what? 1960 who? 1960 what? 1960 who? That's all I thought about. Gregory Porter. My score for this week's album was 10.
Yeah.
10.
Plain and simple.
Yeah.
It matches everything: the creativity, the emotion, the spirit and the drive, the awareness for these guys to sit and Herbie fills in. This is what I find most amazing about Herbie. He fills in when they take a breath in their solos, as he knows when to play a chord. And when you watch videos of him, he is studying every performer on stage. And at first I thought, he's just paying attention to have eye contact. No, he studies them. So when they breathe or when they take a pause, he plays a tiny little chord that fits perfect every single time. 10.
Yeah. Yeah. Again, I love this album so much. In my notes that I made last year when we did it, first listen through this week, and I'm rating it at a 10, no question. My very first time listening to the album, I had never heard Maiden Voyage before we did it on our journey a year ago, and I gave it a 10 right from the get-go. If I could go to 100, I'd go to 100 for Maiden Voyage. Also, in my notes that I made from last year, I said Freddie Hubbard is perfect on this album. He shines, but he doesn't outshine Herbie.
Yep.
So there's no question I'm a Freddie Hubbard fan. I will continue to love and listen to Freddie Hubbard for the rest of my life. But as far as Herbie goes, you can't get much better. You can't get much better than Maiden Voyage, in my opinion.
No, not a chance.
I think the world pretty much recognizes, based on the fact that he's a Grammy Hall of Fame winner for this album.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah.
And so who am I to give him only a 9?
No.
It's about the album.
It's about the album.
Strictly unconnoisseur, okay?
I don't feel bad about your score one bit. You should.
No, but I am going to forward this. Episode over to Herbie himself and just say, "Hey, will you tell my daddy's lost his mind?"
Please don't do that.
Hey, there's been albums that we did not like as unconnoisseurs, and other people absolutely love. And
Big Spiderback.
Yeah, Peter Brotzman. But again, that's how it's our journey. So we get to rate it however we want. And I think, again, still a 9 is a solid score.
Solid.
If you'd have given it a 2, there might have been a
I'd have hung up.
Yeah, there might have been a different discussion, but that you can't go wrong with a 9. You can't go wrong with a 9 at all.
Nope.
Good.
I think what's most important about this is we've got a living legend. He is still with us, still making music, and still shaking the world. And I think it's important to recognize that, because into the future, when we don't have him, we're going to look back and say, what is it that we could have learned from this great? And so to have this opportunity to see, to have him being interviewed, to have him playing music with people and still touring, I mean, you get a feel for what that Miles time period was, what the early years of jazz really was. And he's, just like Miles, had changed the way jazz is felt, changed the way it sounds. And still today, he's doing that.
Well, and the album that we've already covered, The New Standard, he's taken those songs and literally made them jazz standards in his own right. And again, I don't think he was as blazing as Miles as far as blazing the path or the tip of the spear to change jazz, but he sure has been very, very close to the tip of the spear as far as doing his thing and changing jazz how he thinks it should be changed.
And on the new standards, Maiden Voyage, The Eye of the Hurricane, and Dolphin Dance have all been listed as jazz standards.
Mm-hmm.
A jazz standard being something that's in a book that every jazz musician should learn to play. And so those are standards. Those are things that are just given.
Yeah.
Those 3 off this album alone are on that list.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. So some great scores for sure. Drew, did you have anything else to cover about Maiden Voyage?
No, just go out and buy it.
Yeah, for sure. Core collection, definitely.
Yeah.
Dad,
Can I give another quote?
please do.
Okay, this is from Herbie. It's part of life to have obstacles. It's about overcoming obstacles. That's the key to happiness. That's a Herbie quote. I thought that pretty good quote because, so anyway.
Yeah, he overcame a few obstacles himself.
Yes, he did.
So, and he's not afraid to talk about it. So I haven't read his book yet, but the book is called Possibilities. That'll be on my to-do reading list before the end of the year this year, is to read Herbie's book, Possibilities. Okay. Hey, let's talk about our week in music a little bit. You want to do that?
Ready, set, go.
Ready, set, go. Dad, go ahead. Tell us what you got.
Okay, so the other day, which day was that today? I was taking a bike ride, and I've got Bluetooth in my hearing aids, so I was listening to Wes Montgomery today on an 8-mile bike ride. I didn't hear the whole album because I got done before the album was over. Oh, and I went back to my group, the Cats, the Rippingtons. On Pandora, you got the Rippingtons music list. So I had some Rippingtons in my ears along with Craig Chiquico.
Chiquico.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Him and Russ Freeman. So I got to hear a splattering of those. And of course, I'm using Chicago's greatest hits, okay, as some rhythm that I can try to pattern. So when I'm practicing my drums, I got Chicago in my ears. Of course, not even close, but I'm getting the rhythm, the beat down. I'm beat down, having to keep up. But yeah, so I listen to, and oftentimes it's in my ears. I wake up in the morning, I go to bed at night, and there's Chicago greatest hits. Like,
Yeah.
Anyway, I know you'll say something, Matt, about last Wednesday, so go ahead.
Okay, I'll go next.
I was just going to say that I listen to Chicago because it's 25 or 6 to 4 in the morning when I wake up. Sorry, Matt, go ahead.
But does anybody care
Yeah, does it? Yeah.
Yeah.
what time it is? And your watch is broken anyway.
I'll just say this: you two color my world.
Yes. But it's only the beginning. Okay, it's only the beginning.
It's
Okay.
only just begun.
No, that's a different group. So Wednesday we got to go. Dad and Mom and I and Kendra and Mom's old college roommate Dee. We got to go hear the Three Rivers Big Band down at the club room, and what a performance! They were amazing. Now, unfortunately, they did ask Lady D to fill in. She could not fill in, but man, how cool would that have been if Lady D would have been playing the drums with Dee Pennington there watching her? So that was Wednesday night for
That's
me.
cool.
On Thursday, we turned right around and drove down to Decatur to see the Sweetwater All Stars play, doing a free concert for Decatur. They have a parking street fair going on. So Sweetwater All Stars. So I got to see Sean Parr on the drums again. Got to see Chuck playing the Barry sax. Mr. Shurak playing the Barry sax again. Matt Schuler on the trumpet. Yeah, so we got to go enjoy the Sweetwater All Stars band on Thursday. Friday, I was listening to one of our old episodes. It was the Bud Powell episode. That's coming up. I was previewing some music. I was not listening. I was previewing some music. I'm giving it away, but I don't care. I could not get Bud out of my ears on Friday, and I'm telling you what, I cannot wait for that episode. It's going to be a great episode. If you haven't heard Bud Powell, put some Bud Powell in your ears.
Oh, yeah.
I was doing some research on Maiden Voyage and how many times it had been covered by different artists. And there's a list of names. Again, we've talked about it with our journey and our magazine. You're walking through the mall, you see the magazine, you flip through the pages. Yeah, those are cool. But until you stop and smell the roses or listen to somebody else, you don't know. So this week I rabbit holed into Denny Zeitlin. And Denny is a jazz musician who's been around since, he was born in 1938. He's been recording for 40 years.
Wow.
He's been recording jazz for 40 years, but that's not even his main job. His main job is he's a psychiatrist. So jazz is just his secondary kind of, get away from the crazy to record music. So he did a version of Maiden Voyage. So I wanted to go check out his version. Of course, Herbie's is better, but Denny Zeitlin, great job on your version of Maiden Voyage, buddy, and the rest of your music as well, because I added at least 3 of your albums to my iTunes library, so I could go back and listen to some more of your stuff. Denny's he's a piano player, so you're going to get similar jazz to Herbie. But man, if you've not heard of or listened to Denny Zeitlin, check him out. And that's all I got to say. That's my week in music. It was a great week.
Sounds like it.
Your turn, Drew.
Well, my prison cell that I'm currently in, I don't know if you can hear all that background noise. So I think the hurricane's coming through or something. Tornado of boys. My weekend music was pretty chill most last week. Catching up on some albums and getting some things done. And I had random work come flying in at different times. So it was a good busy type week last week. We did interview that dog and return that dog, and we've been looking for other dogs to bring into the house. I think we've been getting texts today. I think we found a 5 or 6 year old female that is having a hard time finding adoption. So we'll end up with a female pit bull. Looks a lot like our current dog. So we've got that going on. This weekend in my prison cell here, it's actually a dorm room. I got here to Texas Jazz and Blues Camp on Sunday to drop off Lily. Got the chance to do some shuttling of things around and helping out. And as I was sitting down with dinner with the crew of people, I got a phone call. One of the RAs did not make it, and could I serve this week as an RA as well? So I went home, grabbed a laptop. I grabbed everything I possibly could. I've got my photo stuff here. I've got my trumpet here. I've got kind of my whole world wrapped around me right now in a cinder block room. I've got 24 young men in this building, and there are four girls and an RA up on top of the hill here. But we are at the St. Stephen's School for Texas Jazz and Blues Camp this week.
Know a teen interested in learning to play jazz? Join us at the 10th Annual Texas Jazz and Blues Camp in Austin, Texas, June 15th through the 20th. They'll learn from world-class instructors and clinicians, including Don Braden, Joe Morales, and many more. The week wraps up with a concert for friends and family featuring student and faculty combos. Boarding is available for out-of-town and local participants. For more information and to sign up, visit us at newschoolofmusic.net.
And it is it's off and running. It has been the longest it's been the longest month of my day so far. Is that the way I can say that?
Yeah.
Just because of the frantic mess to get everything here late last night so that I could set up a bed and get set up for a full day of shooting. I had to test a few things out today. We've got some great master classes coming up. And as I'm leaving the dorm room after dropping off my gear and heading to dinner with the kids, there's a gentleman sitting in my hallway here that shouldn't be here. He's in the main quad. And I thought, well, that's weird. What's this guy sitting here for? And he turned his head just slightly. And I went, well, Don, what are you doing here? So Don Braden's hanging out. He came down and joined us for dinner. And I had an opportunity to talk about music isn't for the fact of music. Music is life. And we had just started talking about that as he refers to his life as extremely blessed. I told him that we were going to be coming in. I was going to record this podcast tonight about Maiden Voyage. And his mind starts running. And I said, yeah, you've played with. And he goes, everybody on that album.
Mm-hmm.
I've played with everybody on that album.
I'm glad you brought up his name, because he is also listed as one of the covers for this song, Maiden Voyage. He's covered it.
Well, if you tour with Herbie, I guess you get permission to cover his stuff. And so it's just so cool, because I said, when you're in that top echelon, what is it really like? When a producer of a record or a record company says, hey, we can get so-and-so to play on that album with you, he starts just describing these names, and I'm just floored. What's it like to be this guy? What's it like to be Ron Carter when you're sitting there and they say, hey, we need a bass player. Can you come? And it's a record label. You're going to be on an album, and you're going to play with, I don't know yet, who? And he says, I'm just blessed that way. My life has been really, really wonderful. And so here I sit with Don, just thinking, what a cool opportunity that the two kids, I've made them sit with the RAs because they're sitting there quietly by themselves. So now they're sitting with Don, and he's just sharing life. He's just a dude hanging out with us. And to me, that is jazz music. I'm sitting with one of the greats having, it was taco night. So we're having tacos and salad, and it's just what a rich blessing. So my cell is here, and I've got, the reason I keep asking if you can hear it, I've had a Barry sax just wailing up and down the hallway. I've had a trumpet player across the hall going at it. At some point in time, they were playing Footprints in the room down the hall. Here it is, 8:30 at night, and there's still instruments playing. It's supposed to be movie night here. They want to practice because we've got concerts coming up on Thursday and Friday. It is such a rush to be involved with this many great and talented people. Now, for me, it's just Monday. I've got 4 more days of shooting. I'm not going home to edit pictures, so whatever I can try to get out will be on my laptop at best. None of the videos will come out until afterwards, but
After all day of playing for the camp, then they come back to their dorm or their room and they play some more.
and they play.
And that's kind of how music goes. If you're in love that much where you're going to come to a jazz camp, you're going to want to play with probably everyone, and you're going to want to sit around and jam with everyone until your face falls off.
We have a big special guest on Thursday, which is Bill Evans, saxophone player who had played with Miles, and he's going to be jamming out with our staff band as well. So we got big things coming this week, and I'm just hoping that 7 a.m., 6:30 to 11 o'clock schedule doesn't burn. Well, my candle's been burned on both ends this day already. So, yeah.
So what's the age group, and where are these kids? Where are they from? And
Thank you for asking. This focuses on mid-teens, about to 18-year-old mark, but it's open to all ages. So if you're going to stay here, you've got to be 18 and younger. We do have a gentleman who is in from Houston and plays mean trombone so far. Really like the guy. I met him on I guess that was Sunday night, and he's got in a hotel nearby, so he's fine, but he's hanging out with us. So I've got somebody that's a little bit older than me. We've had Kent, who is in his late 70s as a sax player. He's not here this year, but most of them is that 18 and younger. So middle school, high school is the focus. We've got college kids as interns helping, but mid-teens, late teens.
is the trombone player old like your brother?
He's just about that old, yes. He's not in the walker, but
How does that low D go?
but in the years to come, I'll continue to shoot and video it. Maybe next year I'll just hire a crew to come in and do it for me so I can be a participant.
Yeah.
And no matter what the age, if you're in here to learn jazz, these young folks are going to accept you and make you part of their crew.
Yeah, for sure. I have a question for you. Do you think the kids realize who Don Braden is?
I wish I got 3 trumpets just blowing random notes through the hallway. I'm surprised you can't hear that because it was loud. Dude, sorry, go ahead and ask that again.
Do you think the kids realize who Don Braden is? Do you think they check out his music or will look him up in the future?
No.
So they don't know that they're potentially sitting with a Miles Davis or a Wayne Shorter or a Herbie Hancock.
The 2 kids I was sitting with at dinner with him didn't know, wouldn't know. When he starts referencing names, he just got off a tour yesterday with the Dizzy Gillespie Big Band. So he's been out on tour with them. And I said, that's no slouch group. He goes, oh, no. They're trumpet players? Top echelon.
Mm-hmm.
They kind of looked and went, oh, we know Dizzy. Well, you know the name, yes. Do you realize what it means that this can't sit next to me? And Knuckles, we're just having a good time. And I felt horrible. I looked at my watch. I was like, I'm sorry, Don. I got to get up and go because I got to record this episode. I just had to walk away from him.
Yeah.
And so I got to tell him a little bit more about the channel, what we're doing, and the fact that we really are 70 weeks into just learning who these names are. Don wouldn't have made a big deal to me 4 years ago either.
Nope.
But you start to recognize and realize who these individuals are. We've got the greats that are here in Austin. We've got UT jazz professors who are actually teaching high school kids and middle school kids music theory. It's just, no, you don't know who they are until you really start to dig in. So I've been challenging kids, get back to your dorms tonight or get home and Google these guys.
Yeah.
And begin to realize that they are the utmost professionals.
Well, and to know that they're not some chump just off the street running the camp or giving lessons or giving master classes. Yeah, you could stand a music teacher in front of anyone and you'd be like, okay, yeah, what do you know? Blah 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 blah. But until you get down to the nitty gritty and realize that Don is who he is, he's played with who he's played with, then your brain turns on and said, man, maybe I should listen to this cat because he knows what he's talking about. So,
you got, and Richard Spencer has played with Chico Hamilton and so many other big names.
Yeah.
These are the men throwing this party.
Right.
What a true honor. Peggy Stern is here. Paul Deemer, trumpet and trombone. The list goes on.
Yeah.
Ernie DeWawa this week is a drummer, and we've got Chris McQueen from Snarky Puppy teaching a combo that just happens to be your niece and your granddaughter and my daughter's combo instructor. So Chris McQueen, the Snarky Puppy. Go check out Snarky Puppy because Shazam.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
So, needless to say, blown away. And we've still got 2.5 hours to go tonight. So I can only imagine the music continues.
Right.
I was just interrupting us to simply say, you can always find us on our website, theunconnoisseur.com. Thank you for joining us on YouTube and the Spotify, Amazon, and I always forget the third one, but yes, iTunes, because I'm not an iTunes guy. But thank you for joining us on those channels. So yes, that's where you can find us. Now, Matt, go ahead and tell us. We haven't gotten to it. So what are we listening to this week?
Number 26 on our list, counting down from the top.
Whoa,
100.
did you say 26?
26. Can you believe it? We're almost 3/4 of the way done with our journey.
Holy 26.
26.
That means we need to get a 25 prediction done. What's in the top 25?
There may just be one coming out.
I bet we already recorded one.
Right after that episode. I bet we got one coming out, don't we? Number 26 on our countdown is the Miles Davis Complete Live at the Plug Nickel from 1965. It was released on the Columbia Legacy label on CD and the Mosaic label on LP. It includes Miles Davis on the trumpet, Wayne Shorter on the tenor sax, Herbie Hancock on the piano, Ron Carter on the bass, and Tony Williams on the drums. So wait
a minute. we just left Herbie on Maiden Voyage, and we're going to the exact same band. Well, Shorter instead of Coleman.
Pretty much.
Shazam! So
and Miles instead of Freddie Hubbard.
Okay, we can go back to Herbie Hancock then.
So we're going to have more Herbie in our ear this week. And I will tell our listeners, this is a large chunk of music.
The boys in the band were jacking with Miles during some of these sessions. So we'll have to talk about that next week.
I'm sure we will. Dad, say goodbye.
I'm looking forward to it. Yeah.
Live at the Plug Nickel.
Yeah, getting to hear Miles and Herbie together and all the others. Wow. Yeah. Good. Thanks.
Drew, say goodbye.
All right. Love you. Bye.